In this video, I'm going to rebuild the steering system on my 2009 Yamaha Rhino. Now, as you'll see throughout the video, I had numerous issues with my steering. I had issues within the rack. I had tie rod end issues, tie rod end joints. Actually, I had a bent tie rod end. So many issues, and throughout this video, I'm going to fix these and address these. You'll also notice that I end up purchasing Highlifter tie rod end kits. They come with the tie rod end and the joint. A phenomenal product there for 65 bucks. You get everything you need per side, so it's 65 bucks per side. But for basically less than 200 bucks, you get to rebuild your steering system, and the end result is a very responsive and stiff steering. I'm extremely pleased with the end result. So take a look at the video, and maybe this will be of use to you. All right, so if we come down here, I've removed the boot here, or taken it apart, but you'll see there's the joint here and the tie rod end. Actually, let me just open that up. This joint here, in my case, has got play in it. You probably can't see it right now, but you'll see it when I get it out on the bench. But this joint is in bad shape. And then the tie rod ends themselves, they've got a play in them. Probably about, I don't know, 3/16 of an inch play on both tie rod ends. So I know I need to replace both tie rod ends. That's no question. I need to replace both of those. This joint obviously is toast, so I'd have to get a whole tie rod end, and I can buy these. And then the rack itself, I don't know. I know one thing for sure though, if you noticed on the rack here, if I just zoom in here, you may or may not be able to see this, but when I do turn the steering, there's a lot of play in the rack shaft here. You see that moving? I don't like that. Now, is that normal? Is that fixable? I don't know. I'll need to take it apart. But that's basically the issue. So taking it apart is going to be fairly simple. I have the U-joint here that I need to take apart. There's one screw there. Take that U-joint apart, and there's 4 bolts that hold the actual rack in on the machine. And I got to pull off both tie rod ends, and just take this thing out, both tie rods in, and I should be okay. So here we go. I'll go get the tools and start taking this thing apart. All right, so I'm all set up to start taking this thing apart. I jacked the Rhino a bit here in the front end just so that the wheels be loose and I can turn the steering so I can get access to the bolts. You'll need a 10mm socket or a wrench to take the U-joint off on the rack, and the rack is held by 4 12mm bolts. So simple as that. And then the tie rods, I think they're 14 or 17mm nuts for the tie rods. So here we go. Let me take this thing apart. Okay, so I've loosened basically the U-joint here on the axle. Now the good thing is there's a mark, painted mark on mine anyways, on the rack and on that U-joint, so I don't have to worry about it. I'll put it exactly in the same spot. I don't think I'll be able to take this thing out that easily. I will probably need to take the 4 other bolts off, and then it'll drop. So let me do that. So I saved you a little bit of cursing here, but I came to the conclusion it was a hell of a lot easier to take the top U-joint out first and then pull the bottom one out afterwards. So I would recommend you do that, because if not, you're going to do like I did and curse it. So there you have it. So now I've finally gotten this thing out. So I should be able to take my rack out of here. There you go. So as I was telling you a while ago, this joint is bad. There's some play in it. I'm going to inspect this thing on the bench. What I don't understand is why is there play in this thing, but we'll see what it looks like on the bench. All right, so what I'll do is I want to take this tie rod end off just to see how hard it is to take off. There's a little sleeve here. Tight that, there we go. Simple as that. So I could buy these actually from company. I found on the internet last night. And I guess this safety clip here, I have to pound back out with the screwdriver or hammer and redo that. But there you have it. Here's my screwed up tie rod end. Fairly simple to take apart. And this is the part in my case that's it's actually busted and bent. If I show you here, you'll see it's actually bent, and there's a lot of play in this. The good news is very easy to take this apart. All right, so I've done my final inspection here on this rack, and I've taken the rack adjustment out. Not sure if this is worn or not. It looks still good. Funny enough, it was rusted in there. The spring was rusted, and what I found out is that on this side there's a lot of play on the rack, and there's no bushing, there's nothing, no seal, nothing here. This is free floating in here, and on the other side there seems to be some kind of bushing. Still nice and greasy on this side. The tie rod and ball is not nice and greasy, but it's not dry and rusty as compared to the other side. The other side there was no seal. Obviously water could get in here, and water did get in and somehow managed to dry this up and loosen it up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if I can find a collar, a brass collar or bushing to put in here. If not, I'll get one machined, get one put in here, and I may even drill and the rack here and put a grease zerk in it, fill it up with nice grease, and buy 2 new tie rod ends. I found a place I can buy tie rod ends with the tie rod end joints here for about a little under $200 Canadian. So I will do that, buy the collar, rebuild this, grease it, and I'll basically have a new rack here, if you will. So that's the plan. So I'll cut this video here, and obviously it's going to continue, but there'll be some time between the time of me taking this apart and me getting the parts. When I last left off, I was going to order some bushings or find some bushings, and went to the local hardware store, and instead of getting something machined, I think I found something that's going to work here. So let me show you what that's going to look like. So okay? What I found here is basically this pipe coupling. Actually, I bought a brass one as well. I thought the brass one would do the trick, but the inner diameter of the brass one wasn't good enough. But this is you know, steel, I guess. It's for steel lines, and I would rather use brass, but there's not a lot of friction in this thing anyway, so this should work. So the nice thing about this is it fits in here. It's a little loose on the top end, but it tightens up at the bottom. So and then the inner steering rack shaft, you know, if that fits nice and tight. There's a little bit of play, which is fine. And if I assemble this whole thing together, there you have it. I have now this shaft is nice and solid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. I'm going to cut it with a hacksaw so it's nice and perfect, I guess, as far as on the side. And I'm not too sure how I'm going to mount it in there. If I'm going to just leave it in there with pressure, or actually put a little bit of JB weld in it to keep it in there. I'm not too sure. I'm going to try to figure that out. But the first thing is to cut it, sit this in, and then grease it up and see how that goes. So all right, let's give that a try. So I've taken this this pipe joint, I guess, and I've cut it off with a hacksaw, and I've grinded the ends, take away any burrs, and this thing should basically fit in there and right pretty well where I need it. Now, stick this in here. There you have it. I'm going to have I can pound this thing in or turn it a bit, thread it in a bit, because it seems to be tapered inside here. So that's how this thing's going to hold. Steering is a little stiffer to move up and down with this in here, and it's just because this shaft seems to be crooked to start with. So what I'll probably end up doing is greasing this a bit here and see what that does. That's definitely sliding in a little bit better. So now I got to just figure out how I'm going to mount this permanently in here, and that's it. I'm not going to get anything machined. I'm going to have this, and that's it. So while I have this thing apart, and I haven't put my sleeve in yet, I figured I'd put in a grease zerk right here. I'll put a grease zerk right in here so that I can grease this this rack whenever I want to. Fill this thing up with grease so water doesn't get into it. And put it here, grease will have to go in, and then I'll have to move the steering back and forth to get it to flow through on both sides, but I think that should work there. So let me drill this here and put this zerk in here. So there you have it. I've put a zerk in here, grease zerk, so that I'll be able to at least grease this shaft, and that should help a bit on the wear and tear of this thing, hopefully, and at least keep the water out of the rack. So now I just need to find my color. So I put in the sleeve with a little bit of JB weld, and I've secured it in there. And as I told you, I put in a grease zerk, so I filled the steering rack with grease. So now this thing moves nice, and it's a little tight, but at least I have no play whatsoever in the shaft. So let's look at this a little bit closer. All right. So you can see here I have the sleeve in there, and there's no play whatsoever in the shaft, and my grease zerk is right there. So I've got this thing pretty well fixed. Now all I need to do is buy the tie rod ends and put this thing back together.